Hello, Patrick.
Morning, Graham. Morning, Patrick.
Good morning, Alan. How are you?
I'm still asleep. Not really. I've been up a while, but I'm going to have to get a mug of coffee before I can go on and open the curtains. Oh my goodness.
Patrick, you're muted if you're talking to us.
One last thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
you'll have my undivided attention, but I need my shoelaces to be done up. Or the next time I stand up, I will take a nosedive. I was writing emails this morning to catch up after being in the editing salt mine for 2 or 3 days, and I lost track of the time. And I can't do a live chat if I haven't had a shower in the morning.
Quite right too.
Doesn't feel right. That's better. Well, it looks like it's just the three of us.
What's the time?
That would be a first.
Your last YouTube video, I asked about Zerine put into Lightroom, and I figure out now how to do this. I did try it by Lightroom, but I have to do it by Zerine Stacker.
Yes.
To put the plug in.
Well, the plugin you load, you can load the plugin through Lightroom.
Yeah, that's not possible. In mine.
If you go to plugin and plugin managers, actually, it might be in Photoshop.
In Lightroom, it was not possible. In mine Lightroom. Classic.
Well, yeah, that's what I use too. Is Classic. Okay, well, if that's the way it worked, then good. It makes the transfer of files very, very easy. Well, I'm glad you're here this morning, Graham, because I've got some questions for you, and congratulations are in order.
Just watched the video, Alan. I'm a bit humbled and honoured at the same time, to be honest.
Oh God, I actually edited out a section of the video that I might just show you guys this morning because I was afraid that it would embarrass you. It was the closing part was I was so blown away by that picture. I really was, and having it on the big screen and looking for faults in it. I actually called Rick Littlefield, got him on the screen with me, and showed him the finalists that I'd chosen, and his reaction was the same as mine, and I've never seen him have a reaction like that to a photograph. So It wasn't just me.
Oh,
That's
that was lucky then. Got a lucky shot for once.
that's hot. Well, yeah, I'm not sure I'd agree with that sentiment, but yeah. So well done. That was something else.
Thank you so much.
It was a great competition. I'll tell you, this thing
Yeah.
is really starting to get legs.
I love the Super 8. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was. It's so much fun. I was afraid that I might upset some people with my comments about Steve the librarian, but I actually called Steve before I released the video and mentioned to him what I was going to be doing, using him as a brunt, and he was absolutely fine with that. So
It was very funny.
it wouldn't be funny if he wasn't a fantastic photographer, but most of his stuff is really good. It's just, my God, that photograph was just shocking. I don't know where it came from. Oh, dearie me. How's everybody doing?
Not so bad.
Maurice,
thanks.
how are you, sir?
Not bad, thank you. I missed the previous meeting. I didn't read the email properly. I turned up at the wrong time.
Oh, for
Before Christmas.
oh, the before Christmas one.
Aye.
It was actually very well attended. There were a bunch of people came, and it was a great fun get together. We covered a lot of ground. It was good. But this is, as always, this is your thing. It's whatever you want to cover. I've got a bunch of things I want to ask you guys, and it's all the people that I needed to ask are here. So that's great. I have several new initiatives kicking off this year, and a few new directions I'm going in, and I just am missing a few key pieces of information that a lot of it revolves around the DIY and the engineering stuff that Graham, I think, is going to be able to give me some guidance on. But I've got some projects and builds that are going to feed directly into what we're doing with our extreme macro photography. So I'm really excited about all that. I don't know if any of you guys, Patrick was there, I think. I started a new European live stream to make up for the fact that my regular weekly live stream on Tuesdays is at such a terrible time for Europe.
At 3 o'clock at night for me.
Is it 3 o'clock? Yeah, it's well, I for the initial one, I didn't even know if anybody would come to the US one. So I set it up at an ideal time, early in the week, middle of the evening, and it has become really quite popular. And it's getting a growing audience coming, and it's a very active participation thing. So I decided what I'd do was do another one on Thursdays, only do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it would be the same time for you guys, middle of the evening on a Thursday, hopefully a fairly quiet day for most people. And I was delighted and shocked to have 50 or 60 show up, and there were 100 views of the thing while it was still going. So for a first event, that was very gratifying. And it was far superior, in my opinion, to the US one. The US one, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of chatting, which is fine, and I encourage it. I'm glad people are comfortable to do that. But the European one was wall-to-wall serious macro questions from before it started until after it finished. And that's what I loved. So for an hour and 15 minutes, it was just answering questions. There wasn't even really time for me to say hello to everybody. Excuse me for a second. So that is definitely going to be, we have another cold morning, so it means I'm going to have a cold for about 3 days. So I'm definitely going to continue this on Thursdays, and certainly if you can come along, you're welcome.
I watched the recording yesterday, and there's some useful information there.
I thought so too. Normally, I think of these as more kind of a glue that holds the community together and gives us a framework to exchange ideas. But this was actually lots of good questions that brought out lots of good answers that haven't been covered elsewhere. So it was, I'm happy with it and really looking forward to watching that develop. So if you can get free on a Thursday night, please plan on dropping by and being part of the action. We'll end up doing a lot of the same stuff, or the same concepts as are used on the Tuesday night one, of doing some live demonstrations. I've done microscope work, insect posing, that type of thing, live on the US one, and I can do all of that just as well on this one, as well as equipment demonstrations. And I can just anywhere really, I can take a camera, I can do this on the live stream. And I'm very happy with the way that it's engaging people, and I think it's starting to grow the channel and change the demographics a little bit. I'm getting some younger viewers now, which is something that the channel really needs, I think, to grow. Not that there's anything wrong with us aged people, but in fact, that's been my one overarching concern, is that anything I do with the channel to try to attract younger people cannot also scare off my regular clientele, or it's not doing any good at all. So what else did I have oh yes, I'm starting to move towards a model that I discussed at the live stream, that is going to be, instead of being anchored in long, dense videos, which I think has been something of it's been an anchor in two senses of the word. It's been an anchor for the channel ideologically, but it's also been kind of pulling the channel down a bit, because most people aren't interested in watching hour-long videos. So going forward, I'm going to really redouble my efforts to chop up the content into more digestible chunks, and to tie the live streams to the content that I release in videos loosely, so that if we have, I don't know, if we have a beginner's microscope objective concept, that 1 month I'll do 2 videos or 3 videos on different objectives that newcomers might consider trying, and then we'll do the live streams that will fill in the blanks and add detail and discussion to the same topics. Not all of it. There'll still be plenty of time for other questions and other issues to be brought up, but just to keep things focused. I also have some assistance now on Discord that I hadn't had before. This is an ongoing thing, but there are a few young folks who are very knowledgeable of the social platform, and also very understanding and knowledgeable of the YouTube interface with social media. And these guys have already started indexing my work, all of it, the live streams as well as the video content, which is going to result in a fairly sophisticated searchable database of everything I've done. It turns out that there are close to 400 videos that need to be indexed, and gosh knows how many articles and live events and everything, but they're going to go through every bit of it and pool all the resources, so that when you want to know about the CFI plan 10x objective for Nikon, you can pull up every article, every live stream discussion, and every video on that subject. I don't know how long it's going to take them, but they are working gangbusters on it. So that's all that's good, and I'm hoping that it'll all translate into a healthier business model for the channel, which is something that has to happen. Because even though intellectually this is right where I like it, the size and the pace I think is perfect for exchanging complex ideas with bright people. We also need to have some modernization of the way I'm doing it, so that we'll attract people and advertisers. Which brings me to the first question that I had for you guys. With all of the projects that I have coming up, some of which involve motion control, you may remember I interviewed a guy named Chris Field, a BBC motion control specialist, great guy. He and I have become good friends since our interview, and he's been helping me with several projects that I've been doing for subject positioning. And I'm at the point where I don't think I can take it much further without a working 3D printer. And I've got a non-working one, which is a very interesting paperweight. But what I'm going to need to do is get my hands on a serviceable heavy-duty printer that will make decent parts that'll hold the bits that I need to make. And I'm going to be reaching out to several of the suppliers, several of the manufacturers in the coming week, to see if any of them would be interested in a limited type of sponsorship arrangement where they might provide me with a machine in exchange for some videos. It would end up being a lot of videos. So the question I had for you guys is, do you 3D print? I know Graham does. And if so, which printer do you recommend? What company has the best reputation? Me being a complete outsider, who should I contact? Who should I talk to?
I'll answer your question, Alan. I don't 3D print.
Oh, you don't?
I would, except that I got scared off by the number of problems that people have with 3D printing. It seems like you've got to be really careful you get a good quality one, because the accuracy of the mechanism and the beds and everything like that has to be so great to get the quality of prints that I'd like and you'd like, Alan. So all I can say to you is be very wary of a nice looking printer. Just look really into the forums as to its stability and whether it's going to need constant adjustment or tolerances building out and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, the printers that Chris is using, and I'm not going to remember the name, but they are completely enclosed, heavy-duty printers that print everything up to but not including metal. So they print carbon fiber, reinforced ABS, and all kinds of materials, that even nylon containing stuff. So the stuff he's making is robust enough to actually act as the framework for 7 degree of freedom positioning robots that he uses, that are being jerked around by NEMA 23 motors. So I think they're about as robust as what we could build out of aluminum. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to contact those companies, but they are very much high-end printers, and I'm not sure that they'll even answer my emails. But you never know. Maybe with a nod from Chris, they will, and maybe there's something there. But I won't know till I ask. Anybody else using printers?
No, but well, I'm totally put off by the cost. But what I would find very useful is to be able to purchase items from a commercial company. directly. I bought diffusers for my MF12s from a British company that does 3D printing, and they're really nicely made, and it's far more economic.
A number of the PCB manufacturers that do quick turnaround printed circuit board development for consumers have started doing materials turnaround as well. PCB Way is one of the more well-known Chinese companies that has very rapid turn. I've had some circuit boards that I designed that were made by them, and they're quick and they're fairly cheap. They have started doing 3D printing of parts, but they are not cheap and they are not fast. It's certainly an option.
Yeah, this British company is a small company, and the chap is a photographer himself.
Oh,
that's what
excellent.
spurred him to produce the diffusers.
What's his name? Now, or what's the company's name?
I'll look it up.
Okay, thank you. That will be a good resource. I'll contact a couple of those services in the US as well. It would be, I think, for many people, it would be a better option than having to maintain printers and buy filament and all that. I'm not sure that that would be practical for me, because I would be more prototyping than I would be manufacturing parts. Yeah, so it would be an extension of the learning process. I'd want to learn how to do it rather than just learn how to draw the CAD and submit the files. Does anybody here use a sophisticated 3D drawing program that they're happy with?
No.
I've been struggling with that now for 6 months. It's very learnable, but it just takes time and effort. It's like learning a language.
This company, Alan, is macrodiffuser.com, and it trades as trick bits custom moldings. And they're in
all one word.
Hang on.
Trick bits custom molding.
Two separate words.
Okay.
And there, I think, is on eBay as well.
Okay.
But
I'll talk to them and see if if they're already tooled up to make macro diffusers for all kinds of different flashes. They're probably
well, they just do them for MF12s, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, really? That is a rather specific.
They make other diffusers as well. I've got some as well. They make them for the Canon twin flash and.
Oh, nice. Yes.
That's MF12s.
Yeah, that's nice. That's so it's just slightly bigger and slightly more effective diffusion. Yeah, nice.
Just slips on like that.
How much are they?
Expensive.
£60 for the twin flash.
That's correct. Yeah, 60 quid.
£60. £60 for a pair of the MF12s?
MF12 ones. Quite expensive, but
in the wrong line
they
of
do
work.
the job. And there's room to add extra diffusion inside.
Or a filter, or a gel.
Yes, so I've done that. You can put a gel inside.
Interesting. That is that's a lot though. That's probably what, $3 worth of plastic. And
but if you think how much the 3D printer would cost and all the hassle that goes with them, you know, it's worth doing. I mean, this is an expensive hobby, so
it's an expensive hobby, and it goes for any of the other things that we decide we're going to try, like just printing. Printing pictures is a huge expense, an ongoing expense.
Yeah, well, I would subcontract to that, get a company to do any printing. For
3D
photographs.
printing, you're talking
No,
about.
for photographs as well.
Photographs.
Yeah.
I actually have enjoyed learning it so much that it's been worth the cost. The printer didn't really cost anything. The printer.
It's a blooming ink.
Yeah, I have the Canon Pro 10, and it basically, after the rebate they offered, and it was during a sale, and it came with a full set of ink as well as the starter ink. It cost nothing. The printer did, and I immediately stopped buying their ink too, and started buying a third-party refillable ink from a company in the US, which I've been using forever, and that stuff is about 1/8 of the price. So it's been a fairly decent value for me. But then again, I print a lot of my pictures it's mostly to give away, to be honest. I've never sold them, but if I did, I imagine it wouldn't take that many to cover my expenses. So printing's affordable for me. And I am thinking of adding that as a way to fund the channel going forward. Maybe putting some prints up for sale and see what happens. Yeah, it's that'll be it's an experiment I've been reluctant to try, because there's nothing quite as demoralizing as doing something like that and finding out, yeah, well, there was a reason you hadn't done it. Nobody's going to buy them. So
I'm sure you could sell your prints. I mean, the photographs are excellent.
Well,
I suspect there's a demand. Well, within America.
I have been, the thing is, my audience are photographers, and most of you guys are really good photographers, and there are very few of you that I know whose work I know well, who I would say would have any interest in. I gave somebody a print as a prize in the photography competition in November. And it was so embarrassing to do that after I thought about what I was doing, because the picture they took was better than the picture I was giving them. So it was, yeah, it's, I'm going to try it anyway. I think that it's just been my ego that stopped me from doing it. And I should try it rather than just complain about how expensive everything is. Give something a shot. But there was something else I was going to say about that. It's gone from my head for right now, but yeah. Does anybody else print? Vaughn, do you print? Patrick?
No.
No. It's actually a lot of fun. You print, don't you?
With the cost of ink
Yeah.
being what it is, not really, unless it's thumbnails.
Yeah. Well, the ink thing, I think if I had to buy Canon ink at 100 it's probably gone up. It's probably more than $100 now for a set of 10 ink cartridges, which have literally a few grams of pigment in them. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. But I only bought two sets of ink, and that was to get the cartridges, and I've refilled them 30 times each, and they're still operating like I can't tell the difference, and I print frequently.
Well, like they say, it's not the ink that costs, it's the computer contact in the cartridge that is the expensive deal, because that's like a little circuit board itself with gold contact.
Yeah, it's actually a semiconductor, the print head, And if you've never photographed one, that is something you should try. If you ever get your hands on an old 3D printer, especially a color one, flush the ink out of it and photograph the printer head itself, because the mechanism of it, the way it vaporizes the pigment into essentially molecules of pigment that it sprays onto the paper. It's mind blowing. I'm going to show you a picture of it because I can do that because we have the technology. Let me see.
I use an Epson printer, and here in the UK, there's a company called Permajet that do their own inks for it and also their own papers.
What's the name of it?
Permajet.
Permajet.
Yeah, and if you actually buy their printers and paper, you can print a test chart out that you send to them, and they'll do a free custom profile for your printer on their paper and their inks.
That would be a deal. I only use the Canon paper. There's one particular paper that they make, a Pro Luster, that has a lovely feel to it. It's a step down from an art paper, but they have their own ICC profile that I use in Photoshop to print with, and I really can't tell the difference between what I'm looking at on my big monitor and what comes out of the printer.
Is that customized for your particular actual printer that you have on your desk? You send off and get a profile
No,
made?
it's customized for the printer and the paper.
Yeah.
So the ICC
Permajet do that, but they're also, which is a general one for their paper and printer, paper and ink. But they also do one because every printer is slightly different. So they'll actually do a customized one for your actual printer.
Yeah, most of the paper companies, the high-end paper companies, publish their own ICC profiles for all of the common large format printers and their paper. It's amazing how, you know, the profile will change just because of the surface coating of the paper, but it's important to do that, I think.
When you have a few prints a year, it's best to let do a company.
Yeah, sure. If you're doing a handful a year. The other thing you've got to bear in mind is I leave my printer turned on so that I think it's about every 48 hours, it goes through a clean cycle, which purges the print head. And each time it costs a few grams of pigment, but it kind of it guarantees almost that the print head stays refreshed and it's not going to get clogged. The way to destroy one of these printers is to turn it off and leave it off for a month and then come back and try and print on it. Once the print head is clogged, that you might as well throw the printer out.
I'm always a bit wary about leaving electrical items plugged in all the time, because some years ago I had every item totally destroyed by a lightning strike on a telephone wire, and it fed the charge of electricity into the house, into the electric circuit, and computers, TVs, absolutely everything got totally fried and had to be replaced. The GPO had to even replace the telephone wires outside. And that was just there wasn't a thunder and lightning storm at the time. It was just a bolt out of the blue, as it were. Maybe I offended someone.
I hear those horror stories all the time, and we get thunderstorms here during nowadays it's pretty much 10 months of the year. We'll get pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon because I live on the coast, and there will be lightning many, many days of the year. And it worries me too, but a lot of our cabling and my computer cabling and everything is in ground. It doesn't prevent surges, but having an uninterruptible power supply that has a breaker in it will will reduce that. I just, on the balance of risk has been, I think it's more likely that I'll ruin my printer by turning it off than I will get struck by lightning, but I may well lose that bet. I don't know. I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, I guess.
Indeed. I've always had trouble with printers clogging up.
Yeah, I have a printer behind me. It's an Epson, just an office printer. It's what I use for my business stuff. It's a rubbish printer. I hate it. And I wish I'd never bought it, but I did. So I'm stuck with it. And I had it 2 months before the printer head clogged on it, on one of the black print heads. Now, I thought, and I'd always heard, once that happens, your printer's done for. But because I don't like the printer anyway, it weighs a ton, so I couldn't just pop it in the mail and send. Epson makes it so difficult to get it repaired that you just give up on it right away, because you have to send it in. It will cost more than the printer to send it to them. So I went online and watched YouTube videos and discovered that by using a mixture of alcohol and soap and water, a detergent and water, and using a piece of rubber tubing and a syringe that fits tight, you just put it over the print head where the cartridge goes in and gently flush it after putting papers underneath where it comes out. It fixed it the first time. It fixed it in 2 minutes. Now I've got that syringe and everything all ready for the next time it gets blocked. I wouldn't do it on my good printer, but I have no problem with flushing that out now. So there's that to think about. It's amazing how many fairly high-tech things you can fix if you look at YouTube first. I mean, somebody's figured out how to repair things. That coffee.
Well, the company hopes that you'll throw it out and purchase a new one. So, you know, I think that's all built in to the product right from the get-go.
Yeah, planned obsolescence. They've been doing it for donkeys, and that our challenge is to beat that by replacing the things that they make to break down. I bought a bread maker. I don't know if anybody's ever used a bread maker, but my mum used to use one, and the bread was the best you ever put in your mouth, but the smell was even better than the bread, and she'd make bread with it all the time. This was like the first generation of bread maker that she got ages ago. Well, I found one at the thrift shop the other day, and I happen to know it's got a big synchronous motor in the base, and I was going to buy it. I knew it didn't work because it didn't turn on when you plugged it in, and I was just going to get the motor out of it and use it in a project. But I thought, well, I'd just give the board a test. So I pulled the board out, and it was just one big capacitor that had gone bad, as they planned for them to go bad, I think. I just replaced all the big electrolytics on the board, and the bread maker works like it, I'm sure it did the day it was made, and I made bread all week. So for $3 or $5, I got a bread maker. We can get them on their planned obsolescence because they pick easy parts to break down because they're cheap. But yeah.
I had the same thing with my ancient Grundig tape recorder, open reel tape recorder, and it was just a question of replacing all the electrolytic capacitors.
Yeah,
and
they
do
again. Go bad. I don't.
Years old.
Yeah, I have a reel-to-reel Grundig that I bought over here at a jumble sale that was in beautiful shape. It looked like nobody had ever used the thing, and it was gorgeous, but it wouldn't turn on. And it was the electrolytics that were just ancient. They'd rotted. They were, I think they were paper and electrolyte, big things. Just replaced them with new ones, and it works fine. I don't have any tape though. Can't buy tape over here.
Never really thought of that. As a youngster, as a teenager, I used to lug the thing 400 miles on holiday around with me. Crazy.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. My first record player was a gigantic oak chest thing that I got at the church jumble sale in my village back in Sussex. Took me 2 of my mates to get it home to my house, and it never moved again once it got to my bedroom. And that was just to play the 45s. It wouldn't play 33s for some reason. That gear wasn't working, but the things.
I've still got my Danset record player auto changer from when I was about 14. One valve, and it still works. Never had to do anything to it.
They did make good stuff. Does anybody still have their first camera? Graham, do you still have your first camera?
My first camera was a film camera, one of the early Kodaks that was mainly used. We couldn't afford to film or anything for it, so we took it. Took half a dozen photos. Then I went digital in the 90s, I think, with the one of the early Nikkons, and took millions of pictures thereafter. Really.
Yeah, I've still got mine. Kodak Retina 1B, something like that.
Retina. I don't remember that one. I still have my Brownie.
I have my Browning as well. 127 film that it used. Yeah. Just one step up from a shoebox, poking a hole with a pencil through the shoebox.
It is a shoebox, except it's got a piece of glass where the light comes in, and that's it. Yeah, but it's made of Bakelite, and mine still looks about as good as the day I got it for Christmas. But I never did like film. I found it the delayed gratification. Well, it wasn't the delayed gratification. It was the delayed disappointment of looking at my films 3 weeks later and discovering they were crap. If I'd known that
when I gave up Flash. That's when I gave up Flash. I've got my first digital camera, which was a Fuji Fujifilm, but it didn't have it had a viewfinder but no screen.
Oh gee. My first digital camera was a Kodak 1 megapixel. It was like $400.
Wow.
$500. It was crazy. And it was terrible too. I've still got it. And then I got a Hewlett Packard one that was even worse. And then I gave up on it, really. I just didn't think it had any future. I was using film in my surgical practice because I used it for documentation. So I'd take pictures in the operating room a lot and in the office too. And that was a Minolta with a macro lens, which one of my daughters stole from me, and I've never seen it again. She borrowed it, and I've never seen it again. It was not a good camera, though.
My first digital was a Nikon S70, 12 megapixels, and sold for $400. And I liked it because it didn't have the telescopic lens.
Yeah.
People that were using the telescopic lens, they weren't being careful about them, and if they incurred any dirt or foreign material, they could have problems extending. And I figured I didn't want that problem, and it was small enough that I wasn't going to buy multiple lenses to attach to it, and I could put it in my pocket like a cell phone. It was very, very convenient. And I think 12 megapixels was more than enough to produce a fine image.
Who started their digital experience with a pro camera, with a camera with exchangeable lenses and buttons and dials for most of the functions. Did anybody do that, or did everybody just kind of dip a toe in the water first?
I started with Sony,
Uh-huh.
and 25 years ago. And then everybody laughed of me because it was what is it? Children's stuff. And now they're making the best cameras in the world, the A1. And they laugh at me. I started with the first camera from Sony, and I bought all the years a camera, and every time they laugh at me, and it's nothing, and it's nothing. And I said, Sony gonna make it on one day.
Do you have the A1 there?
No,
with you?
no, I don't have the money now.
And yeah,
It's 8,000 euros or something here.
yeah. I was talking to in the last month when I was interviewing Steve Axford in Australia, and talking to him and Catherine, his wife. They are Sony ambassadors, and they get all the new Sony equipment when it comes out. And Steve is such a. I had to edit out all the bits where he was saying, "Well, you know, they're okay. it's all right. It's not as good as my old Canon was." But she would kick him to remind him not to say that, because this was an interview, and I'd have to edit it all out. But yeah, they loved that A1. They were sent one to try out when they were recording a video overseas, and apparently it really is an amazing camera. I've never seen one.
Just curious, why doesn't anyone seem to use Pentax?
Actually, I know several people in the macro world who use Pentax. In fact,
I'm using Pentax.
you are a
Yeah,
K1?
just purely by accident. My wife bought a K7 a good few years ago, and I bought a second-hand K1 when I wanted to do the macro photography. I just went for Pentax because she had the 100mm macro lens.
Yeah. I mean, it is a lesser brand in that it's not carried by a lot of it wasn't carried by a lot of independents over here. Simply, you know, I think for business reasons, the volume of sales, the big three, or the big four now, I guess, Fuji and Canon, Nikon, and Sony, just take up so much of the market. It doesn't leave much breathing room for anybody else. But the people who do use Pentax swear by it.
Well,
And
I went for the K1 because the shutter mechanism is supposedly good for 300,000 shots, which is a lot more than a lot of other brands, as far as I can make out.
yep, well, the Nikon D7500, which is my studio extreme macro lens, which is a crop sensor camera, is rated for 250,000 shutter actuations, and it's pushing 1 million right now. So
I took a chance on buying a second-hand one.
you never know what happened with it, but I think they are so conservative in their estimates of shutter. I mean, you never know. I mean, I had my the shutter break on my D850 a month after getting it, and I probably had a few hundred actuations on it. So I guess it's the luck of the draw. Yeah.
Yeah, I always, with film cameras, I always used Canon, the A1s and the E1s, that sort of thing. And then I went for a T90.
Oh yeah. Gosh, I've got one of those.
Total waste of money. The shutter mechanism keeps seizing up. I had it repaired once expensively, and it did it as soon as it was out of guarantee after 6 months, it seized up again. And I've never quite managed to find the time to open it up, and I know what's wrong with it. but you know, it's electronics, and there's the magnets in them. They're just an absolute nuisance. Whereas the ancient A1 or AE1s, they just keep going forever.
Yeah. Well, Rick Littlefield was telling me on Wednesday that he has the new R7. Is that the Canon? Is that the second to highest Canon?
It's an APC wildlife one, if you like. So it's a mirrorless APS-C camera. I've got one.
Is it more analogous to the Z6 or Z7?
That I'm not sure.
Because
It's,
he does. It's not the big bulky press one, which is the R3, I think.
Yes, that's the professional one.
Right.
Then there's the R5, which is the 45 megapixel,
That,
which is what I've got as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And the R7 is the APS-C smaller version of that, but because it's a later version, it tends the electronic sensor to be slightly more advanced, I should say.
well, he was telling me that what he did last week was he videoed the shutter mechanism using it was his phone. He was telling me about his phone. He got a new Android phone, and it has slow motion at 240 frames per second, which is ridiculous. But he was filming his R7 shutter actuating, and he said it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. That mechanically that is unbelievable. It's got an electronic front shutter, right? And it's just it flaps across the at the end.
Yeah, it's a conventional shutter, really, but of course, being mirrorless, you know, it's only used as a shutter. Right? There's no mirror assembly to
Right.
flick out the way. So
He said it was quiet and lightning fast, but he could, at 240 frames per second, he said he could catch 2 frames with the shutter actually in motion.
there's a massive advantage with the new Canon mirrorless cameras, because in order to use the old EF lenses, you need to use an adapter.
Right.
Different, yeah. Well, anyway, you can buy. I just happen to have one here. You can buy one of the adapters. Comes with either a polarizing filter or a neutral density filter. Slip in
goes
one.
in it.
Yeah, I just got mine. Another one today. And if you can buy clear ones, so you can slip a clear one in there, and then you can take your bellows off and pump them up and down, and the only dust goes onto that. So you don't have to worry about your sensor, because it's horrible on a mirrorless being exposed.
I have encountered that on my Fuji to the point that it's driving me nuts. My Fuji stays either on my microscope or on the vertical rig, and it's never had a lens on it, I don't think. It's always open to a tube that's getting pumped. And it just has so much grime on it that when I'm shooting at 20 times magnification, all I can really see is the dust on the that's coating the sensor. I have to clean it every a couple of days. Wet clean it.
I just think it's almost a fundamental flaw in digital cameras, that they don't have a piece of optically perfect glass that you can't slide in and slide out to catch the crap when you're changing, because it's a nightmare trying to clean the sensor properly. It is, really. People say it's easy, but it's not that easy.
It's easy if you're in a dry environment and the stuff on your sensor is dust. I use a charged brush, a sensor brush that I don't even touch the sensor with. I just charge it with air and then pass it over the top, and it picks up all the dust. But that's never down here because my humidity's 90%. Everything has got oil and wax on it from being in such a warm, wet environment, and everything sticks to the sensor and leaves smudges. So you have to do a proper clean every time.
And there's the shutter lubrication as well, which inevitably comes off over time.
Yep, and it ends up on the sensor with these big oily splotches that will not come off even sometimes with a thorough cleaning. I had to send one camera back to Nikon to get them to clean the sensor because I could not get the oil smudge off. Anyway, you'd never turn back, Graham, as far as I can tell from the mirrorless experience.
I sold all my DSLRs about a couple of weeks ago. All gone.
Did you?
I will never touch them again. And there's a few issues. I mean, my R7, which is flickering away down there occasionally, it doesn't. I don't use the shutter either. I'm just using electronic flash all the time. No vibration. Macro-wise, it's just brilliant. You know, absolutely stunning. No vibration at all. It's just an electronic thing, so it'll last for, I wouldn't say it'll last forever, but you know, till the electrolytic capacitors go, but which is unlikely nowadays.
Was when you switched, was there a period of time that there was a transition, or did you realize the benefits instantly in terms of motion artifact and that type of thing?
Oh,
was it overnight?
Yeah, overnight. But you've got to remember, you know, as you know, I'm going down the sort of the constant light pathway. If people have got vibration, then flash is definitely the way to go. But if you can eliminate that vibration, if you can do it, and you know, it's the way to go. It's no problem. But flash still has its place. But for me, once that happens, there's no flickering, no flashing, the setting up is much easier. You can see what you're doing. It runs. You can clump any old junk onto your rail. My homemade rail. You just put anything on there you want, and it just works. And yeah, it's just got to be a way to go. And I'm going vertical, by the way, shortly. I've designed. Well, it's mostly built, but I'm still awaiting rails. I'm going vertical with a homemade rig. It's all held together by magnets. So potentially, if anyone wants to do it, you can take the rig off and lay it down and use it horizontally as well. And it's all held together by magnets. So.
Do you have anything you can show us yet, or?
I could go and take a picture quickly, but if I describe it, a flat baseboard, a 700mm high, 300mm wide, vertical board, triangle of wood, several 10-kilo neodymium magnets, holding it all together with a couple of dowels to make sure it sits in the right place. So it's held as good as bolts because the magnets obviously have a constant pull.
How big are the neodymiums?
They're 10K. They're about 20mm in diameter and 6 or 7mm thick. So the board has a gap in it, if you like. The magnets sit together because if I indented them, I'd have accuracy problems. So I just used the flat edge of the wood to bolt them to, and bolted them. So you've got a gap. But the gap is a false gap because it's obviously. So I've used about 15, 16 magnets to hold the whole thing together. It's as solid as a rock, but you can pull it apart. The idea is that the actual moving platform going up and down goes over a pulley with a counterbalance. It's about 11 pounds in US weight, to counterbalance the weight of the moving parts. Which
is it a chain or timing belt?
I'm using a 2mm nylon covered wire. It's rated about 50 kilos, but it just goes over a simple pulley, or two pulleys really. One just to clear the thickness and to leave room for a weight. So it'll end up with a negative. If you let go of everything, it would rise to the top. It's about, at the moment, it's about half a pound in negative, if you like. So it rises up rather than falls down. And the stack shot or whatever is going to sit to one side of it and drive it from the side, because the height is a problem.
Are you driving it from the back?
I'm driving it from the front. So if you like, I've got a 400mm wide vertical board. To one side of that board is a 300 by 300mm platform sitting on rails. And my 300 by 300mm platform, I've left a piece sticking out like so, and the stack shot will drive this up and down.
Kind of. Is there a base? Is there a base to it?
So yeah, so I've got, I'll grab some paper and I'll make sense of it. So I've got a flat piece of board like so. I've got a, oh God, it's not really show, damn. I've got a piece of paper sitting on top of it as a,
right.
That's the vertical, triangulated and held with magnets.
Right.
So this is your vertical. I've got the platform going up and down on here.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back of it here, I've got some extra thicknesses of wood as rails, so that when if you took it all apart, you'd end up with just this piece with your moving platform on it, and you could turn it over, and it becomes a vertical, and the extra wood will clear the pulley, which you don't use anymore, and it'll sit there, and you can use it as a vertical rail on a flat surface.
Would you have to build clearance underneath it? Would it have to go on some risers to?
Yes, but when you have this when you have your vertical, if you imagine that you've got the moving platform one side, you can have a couple of extra thicknesses of wood here to build it out, build the thickness out. So when you turn it over, it's held above the.
Got it. I see. When's it going to be ready?
It's ostensibly the structure's built and painted and ready. I've made an aluminium platform to mount the linear guides on and drilled it ready.
Is it? Are they linear bearing?
I'm using linear guides. Yeah.
The same ones that you use.
Say again.
The same ones that you used on the other rig.
Yeah, except I've gone for 700mm long rails, because I wanted to be able to clear the top as well if I put a big camera on. That's good, yeah. A triangulation one side with magnets to. You got it, but it's all the way to the top.
Oh, okay, yeah. So really,
I've had to do that, yeah, and I've made it so high in order, Alan, your problem, to give enough clearance to get the background out of focus if you need to.
Yeah. That to me is the biggest sticking point with vertical rigs, is controlling the background is very, very difficult.
Yeah. So I've used the low profile tubes like that we buy from WeMacro, down to onto very low profile quick connectors.
Right.
So it's only about, I think, 30 or 40 mil above the surface is your photographing distance, the height of it, but with the option of adding, I'm going to put probably a 2-inch by 2-inch block to space it out when I need to, because obviously it's a bit close to the backboard. But the further you get out, the greater the potential for vibration. So I've got the option to do that if I want.
When I sketched mine out before WeMacro sent me this, I was planning on building something very similar to this without the counterweight. I was planning on building it on a surface, actually a table that I already bought, that would have space underneath, and I was planning on cutting a window out and putting a piece of high quality glass at the base, so that when I wanted to, I could shoot right through the base to a picture frame or a tablet for background, and move it as far back as the floor. And yeah, that this may be something I want to take on, because I'm not happy with the results I'm getting from the unsupported WeMacro vertical rail. The simplicity and the ease of use is fantastic, but there is a vibration flaw that I cannot get beyond. I mean, it is. I'm not going to give up on it until I have it anchored to the wall and see what that does. I think an anchor is going to improve it, but at 20 times and above, it's problematic.
Is that going to show? I'm going to have to kill my videos. Bear with me a second.
Yeah, take your time. It's all good. I'm gonna look into the magnets. The magnets are embedded in the edge of your upright platform.
So very crudely, that's looking at the vertical board from the front, and so very crudely, I've made a. It's terribly badly drawn, but that's this piece here there is 300 by 300, and this bit is just 100 mil sticking out, so that the stack shot can actually operate it directly without resorting to some sort of cross member. Does that make sense?
It does, but how are you preventing rotational torque on the platform?
Okay.
With your drive when you're driving it from one corner, basically?
A good question, and obviously I covered that one. So I'm using lightly preloaded linear guides. They've got 0 movement. I'm using 4, and the reason I'm using 300 mil of spacing, the reason I'm using such a big platform, is because the bigger the platform, the less difference any inaccuracy in one of the linear guide rails makes. And because you've got 4, any one of them will probably stop twisting. That's probably not true on a big, but with having 4, the any movement is gone. So it doesn't matter that it's mechanically, when you look at it, you think that's wrong because you do it from the middle. And I looked at that, but all that would do is either increase my height if I tried to do it in the middle. I could have done it from the back, but then I couldn't use the platform flat. So I realized from the other one that you can push it up and down from wherever you like. It is absolutely perfect. There is no tolerance. The tolerance is taken out by the preloaded. Bear in mind, you've got.
Is it laterally preloaded? I mean, are the springs pushing the individual bearings out to the sides?
There is no springs. Inside a linear guide is 2 rows of circulating bearings. And when they talk about preload, as you know, if you're nipping something up onto a slider, for example, there's a point where you've just caught it and it's actually slightly tensioned, and that's what a preloaded bearing is. So you've got them pushing together slightly, very slightly. And for the purposes of we've got, which is not using them anywhere near to their full potential in terms of millions of movements or anything like that, a very slight preload makes no difference. But what it does do is eliminate all sideways play completely. That's why it works. And so having a big platform and four guides on rails takes out any sideways at all. So you don't need to worry about that anymore.
Are you using separate vertical rails for all 4 bearings, or are you sharing rails for the 2 lateral? 2
rails. It's a railway line. 2 separate rails. So, but you've got to bear in mind that generally speaking, we're taking things over 5 millimeters. So the inaccuracy from one part of 5 millimeters to the next part of 5 millimeters would be so minuscule if there was a bend, for example, that it wouldn't affect anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean,
ostensibly, you're working on, for what we're doing, a perfectly flat surface that can only move in one direction, fore and aft, or up and down in this case.
Would it be possible to do the same thing, only driving it from the back using a chain, for example, a timing chain, one of the really high-end bicycle chain type things, if you had a spring that was maintaining downward pressure on the other side of the board?
Yeah, but it'd be pointless because it would be much better to do a direct drive by mounting your stepper mechanism, your stack shot or wheel macro on the back and driving straight through to the back, cutting a slot, in other words.
Oh, okay,
Cut a
I
slot,
see.
that's a direct drive that eliminates all. The problem is that, as we've talked about many times, I'm sure, that every mechanism has play.
Yeah.
And mechanics tries its very best to utilize that play wherever it can. So we've got to cut that down to a minimum. So the rail cuts it down, but we've got to be very careful we don't lose accuracy of movement by using chains or anything like that.
Yeah.
So when I'm using a counterbalance, all it's doing is supporting the weight. It's not driving it. The stack shot is a direct drive to the platform.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it makes sense. I was just trying to think of alternatives for just to as an exercise. Because that platform seems awfully big, but I guess it doesn't make any difference if it's pretty much flat to the upright.
Yeah, it makes no difference at all. But what it does do, it increases mass, which isn't so, because we're moving such tiny amounts, and the fact that it's counterbalanced doesn't actually matter. But what it does do is ensures you've got a perfectly stable surface, devoid of all but the tiniest of movements over the two axes.
I came into a big plate of aluminium that has some random holes drilled in it and tapped, but it's a very high quality, looks like aircraft grade plate that's enormous. It took me almost a day to saw it in half, but I have two pieces, and I'm thinking about using one of them as a base for a vertical rig. Now I'm thinking about driving it like this. Would it simply be a matter of getting the counterbalance? I was thinking maybe using the other plate as the counterbalance on the back.
Yeah.
Would you use something that heavy? I mean, it's heavy.
I use my plate, which I could go and get if you want to wait a second. But it's,
I'd love to see it.
All right.
Anybody else? Yeah, they're all saying definitely.
Give me 5 minutes and I'll come back and I'll show you what I've built if I can.
Let's take a 5-minute break, and
Right,
I need to get a cup of coffee anyway. Is that all right with everyone?
Fine.
Reconvene in 5.
No, I'm okay, thank you. Oh, I don't need that one. Just actually, I'll take that. Didn't do it that way yet. Thank you. Cooking now.
While Graham is getting that set up, I wanted to show you guys the printer head that I was talking about. I can't find any of the really nice ones, but you'll get a feel for it looking at this.
Thank you.
This the first time I saw the things was in one of these pictures. This is what the printer head looks like, but at 10 and 20 times magnification. This is at about 4 times. These mechanisms are incredible up close, and the further in you get, the more amazing they are. But these are silicone. Whoops, that's the black printer head. So they're just a very complicated and beautiful piece of solid state engineering, and definitely a very worthwhile project. And if you use one that's freshly pulled out of an old printer and it's still got some residual ink in it, sometimes the bubbles of colored ink that come up to the surface and then spread out make for some very nice color contrasts. But you can see, you can get an idea of just how complex these things are, and they're actually multiple layers. They go down into a valley where the print head is, and the actual ink comes out of these tiny defects in the bottom. Anyway, I'll try to find the good versions of my print heads. I've got some that I'm really proud of. These are not they, obviously. These were the first printer I looked at, so I'll try to find the good ones. All right, Graham, all yours. Let me unshare.
Right, hopefully you'll be able to see this. So it's a rather large. This.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep, that way. So you've got a
Nice.
baseboard. Can you see the magnets?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll go around this way.
Is it plywood or MDF?
This is 18 millimeters, 3/4 inch plywood. Can you see the plywood on the bottom too?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the structure. So it all comes apart completely.
Is there any mechanical anchor besides the magnets, or is the magnet holding everything?
Everything. That's how strong it is. Look, solid as a rock.
Yeah, I believe it.
Give it a tap and it comes apart. But it means there's no it's rigid, which is obviously what you need. So
Are
that's
the magnets making contact, or do you have them separated?
They're making contact. There's one or two. There's perhaps a slight gap, but that's great. That's exactly what I want. So
Okay.
then,
Did you drill a recess into the wood to house the magnet? No.
no,
Okay.
but I've used 2 dowels on each piece, 2 metal dowels into the wood, just to make sure that, because we're using magnets and potentially they could, that just holds them in the right place and stops too much of that. Once they're in place, they won't move anywhere, but just make sure they go in the right place.
You just have to get the polarity right.
Yeah.
Are these polar neodymiums?
So they're They are. Well, no, flat plate and one neodymium magnet. So a magnet and a catch plate.
Okay.
Both countersunk, screw into one, screw into the other. Wood screws, job done.
Oh, the magnets are countersunk with a hole. I have some of those. They're very good. Okay.
But you need to use more than you think.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. Then piece of 1/4 inch 6mm plate, aluminium plate.
Oh, okay. Well, that's about the size of the thing I've got.
And as you can see, I've pre-drilled. You need to do this accurately as well, but accurately as I could do it anyway. So you
Drill
can
press.
pre-drill for the linear guides and countersunk, so that I can screw a top plate on.
Right.
Yeah, because the top plate means you can just screw down your quick release clamps or anything you want. Okay.
Top plate going to be made of
It's here. Piece of wood.
okay.
Remember
But you could probably use acrylic for that, right?
You could, but you can't put screws in it so easily. We can, but I can just use wood screws in here.
Yeah.
So you can see I've left this section. So this piece here is 300 by 300, which matches this, believe it or not, but sits behind it like that on the rails. And this will have
aluminum is on the rails. The wood's in front. Yeah.
Yes, that's so. So what you'll see if you look at it finish is that with a stack shot with a bolt here and a rod, like I've used before, a rod end, a push
with
rod.
an articulating rod end for
articulating rod end. So it'll be probably a 5mm rod with a 5mm hole in the end, and the 5mm will go on a pillar probably just to roughly match the height of the stack shot, roughly. It doesn't matter too much.
So it's pushing parallel to the face of the.
It's not that critical actually.
Okay.
But because you've got a bearing in a rod end, it will move, so doesn't have to be straight. So near enough straight anyway, and that will just push this up and down.
Is that going to be? Are you going to be able to adjust the start and end point of that rod, or is it going to limit you to a certain length of travel?
Right. So on this part will be mounted your tube assembly on a series of 3 or 4, I haven't decided yet, clamps.
Yep.
That can slide all the way up, all the way down. Similarly, on the stack shot or whatever macro, I've mounted a rail, a Arca Swiss rail, of whatever it is, 8 inches or 9, I can't remember now.
So you can move it up and down.
And that will similarly sit on 3 or 4, so I can go full height or low height, whatever.
Got it. Understood.
Very simple. And you just quick flick. They're flick ones. I'm using ones that you can just flick, and they're flush out. They're really low profile.
Yeah. Are they the Sunaway photo ones or?
No, they're made by and hang on a minute. Andoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I know exactly the ones you're talking about. I'll put a link for these in the notes that go with this recording and any other things he's talked about too. Because I bought some of those magnets recently.
one last thing to show you. Counterbalance weight.
Oh, they actually make them like that.
No, I've made it.
Oh,
that's two. Oh, Alan will recognise these from your youth. Grocer's weights.
Oh gosh, they are too.
And
Sainsbury's, they had those though.
With a wire over 2 of those,
mm-hmm.
which will sit on top of my thing. 2 so it'll go up, along, and down for the weight.
There was another piece, another linkage that I'm trying to think of. How are you mounting those pulleys? Do you have a block of wood at the top?
Yeah. So I didn't bring it up, but I've cut some using the same material. I've cut some extra blocks, and they're going to sit either side. either side
Right.
of the main baseboard to give a little bit of clearance, because I don't want the weight scraping on the side of on the back.
Right. And how are you attaching the, did you say you were using a nylon coated steel cable?
Yeah.
Are you using crimping, what do you call them?
So I'm using
Ferrules,
Yeah.
these things?
That's the clamp, and I'm using the loop that you can also buy.
Oh yes, the steel looks like what they put on horses' necks.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes.
A yoke, right?
Yeah, yoke, yoke, and that, and then I'm using on here. I'm using just one of those
Horseshoe clamp
horseshoe
things.
jobbies with a screw in it. One of those.
This is very sophisticated and very clever, and I can see this really working.
I think it will work.
When are you going to know? Can you find out before I start building it?
Well, I will be, but the sad thing is I've got a big production coming up in a couple of weeks, so I won't be able to make the 2-week one because I don't think I can get away from.
Oh no!
But I'll have it built. I'm waiting for the rails to come at the moment. I can order them.
Where are you getting the rails from?
A company called Ashley Bearings. This in the UK.
Yeah, I know them.
Yeah.
And what?
Can we tell you what they are?
Yeah, because they come in different grades. I've found that they have a numbering system that I don't understand.
You get your pen ready. Here we go. So the linear rail, I'm using 15mm rail, and the code number for that is MGN for November, R for Romeo, 15M for Mother.
MGN RI5M.
No, not RI5.
R15M.
That signifies the width, actually. The 15mm is the rail.
Got it.
And you can buy that in something like, anyway,
is it pre-drilled? Pre-drilled?
Yep. It's pre-drilled, and they cut it to length because it's quite expensive. It's for every couple of inches you add another £5 on or something or whatever it is. But anyway, so you select your length and you get it bought, cut, ready.
Does it take M5 countersunk bolts to hold it?
Can't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll find out. And what are the bearings?
Right, here's the bearing. So I'm using MGN for November. So it's Mother G November. 15 HZ1 HM.
M as in mother.
M for mother.
All right.
So it's MGN 15HZ1HM.
Got it.
The Z0s are the very lightly preloaded, and the Z1s, you can see in the middle, the Z1 is the ones I'm going for. This one is the lightly preloaded, and I'm doing that. I used the Z0s on my last rig, my other rig. The Z1s are very slightly more preloaded. It's only very light, but it should eliminate any movement whatsoever.
Got it. When I hear preloaded, I'm always thinking in terms of circular bearings on rods where there's actually a spring that's pushing the two elements apart and adding the preload. But this is not sprung.
No, if you bought, for example, a car wheel bearing, that's preloaded. There is no play. When you get hold of your wheel, you shouldn't feel any movement at all. Even though when you've got a big wheel on it, you won't feel anything there. You might do after it's worn, but that's a preloaded bearing. It's not preloaded. It sounds terrible, but it's a bit like when you nip a screw up and you just touch. You just do a little bit more just to hold it in place, but you don't do it so much it's going to damage anything. Right.
Tightening. It's just tightened a bit.
It's just tightened a bit.
Well, they didn't preload the hoses on my coolant system on my car this week because my car broke down and I took it in to have $4,000 worth of head gasket and valve cover replacement done. And then they called me to pick it up day before yesterday. And I was 1 mile from the repair place headed to my house when the engine light came on and the coolant warning, because there was no coolant in the car. So it went back to the hospital yesterday. So yeah, tightening's good. I agree with tightening as a general engineering principle. What do you guys think about this? Is anybody else entertaining the idea of a different kind of vertical platform, or is this giving you ideas? Maurice, you were already invested in a vertical setup, aren't you?
Sorry?
You already have a vertical
Oh, yes,
setup.
yes. I've got a rather different system. It's using dovetail clamps.
Yeah.
And I don't totally trust them with the enormous amount of weight on the vertical. So at the moment, I've just put a meter length of studding through, which holds everything in case anything gives. I'm thinking of.
Where is the dovetail?
There's a square vertical
aluminum. Yeah.
Yes, it's a Thor Labs piece, and that's incredibly sturdy. And again, it's a Thor Labs dovetail clamp that's on the horizontal and the vertical.
Okay.
They're both the same, but there's only 2 sort of grub screws holding the whole thing together on the vertical, which I think is a bit risky. So I can feed, I've got it here. That's the plate there, which
wow.
everything will go on.
So that's an extruded plate. Looks like a 2060 or 2080.
Yeah, the stepping motor and camera and everything just clamps onto that, and this stud just is a backup in case the 2 dovetail clamps give way. It's an insurance policy.
Got it. Yeah, I have a small length of cable for the same thing.
I've got small bearings in there, ball bearings, and that can be adjusted.
How far away from the face of that plate is the load of your camera? I mean, that moment arm is what Graham's rig.
Well, I mean, when the camera's the whole stepping motor and camera, it will be out here in the camera.
That's a lot.
The vertical column this is attached to is sort of like that.
Yeah, very massive.
It's broad. It's a huge, sturdy bit of aluminium. But that's just the backup.
Well, I can't wait to see what kind of results both of these get. Have you been shooting with it, Maurice?
No, not over Christmas. Just no time with family visiting. I'm suffering from. Hang on. The one problem with having this on a Saturday afternoon, everyone's at home using their computers.
Yeah.
And my signal, the bandwidth isn't added. Hang on, it's gone again.
That's okay. We're getting most.
The bandwidth isn't up to it. We've got fiber optic into the village, but then from the center of the village out to my house, it's just ordinary cable.
Got it.
And it's not up to the job.
Tell me one thing: is that a rugby field out your window?
No, it's just an ordinary agricultural field.
That looks like a set of rugby posts. It reminds me, Saturdays were my rugby day
Oh, right. No,
down
no.
south. Yeah,
I must admit,
No,
I thought it was a village green.
that's what it looks like. Yeah.
No, it's normally horses in there. It's you would have shinty up here because we're in the Highlands.
Oh.
Are you really?
Yeah, north of Abbey Moor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh dear, I made a joke about Scottish ski resorts in a recent video.
It's
Shouldn't have done
okay. I don't approve of the ski resorts anyway. They're environmentally unfriendly. We're getting less and less snow here now, and our local ski slope, they've put in 2 enormous snowmaking machines which run off diesel. And
Yeah,
they're incredibly polluting.
yeah. And the snow that they spray is also laden with chemicals to stabilize the ice.
Yeah.
I have a picture that my brother sent me, taken near Aviemore, of a hill with a triangular patch of ice about 10 feet on a side, with a woman standing on it in skis. Everything else is just mud.
Yeah. Mind you, the temperatures, we've been getting down to -15 during the night here.
But you're not getting any precipitation with it then to make snow.
The snow's just gone. We've had, for the last few weeks, we've had at least 8 inches of snow, which is gradually frozen. And
How far north of Aberdeen Inverness are you?
we're about parallel with Aberdeen, but I'm half Aberdonian myself. But we're about 3/4 of an hour south of Inverness.
Okay. That's a lovely area. My mum and dad used to take us on holiday up there every summer.
Yeah. Well, very, very strangely, my wife used, as a youngster, for a year, lived 2 houses next door to us.
Oh, really?
Pure coincidence.
Oh gosh,
We ended up.
that's weird. Oh my goodness. I need to get back over. I haven't been to Scotland since my mum and dad died. Really, they lived in the borders. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I was in Berwick-upon-Tweed.
Oh well, they were in North Berwick.
Ah, right.
Across the border. Yeah. Berwick-on-Tweed's nice, though. I like that town.
It's too busy.
That's
Bass Rock. I've got several Bass Rock paintings that my mum gave me over the years. Bass Rock's an interesting chunk of stone. Have you ever photographed the puffins? Yeah, lots of guano. But puffins out there too. Have you ever photographed them?
No, I'm not a photographer.
The gannets, of course, or Bass Rock is famous for.
Is what?
Yeah.
A gannet.
Gannet. Not puffin?
Not that many on Bass Rock. Mainly gannets.
No.
They've taken a bit of a hammering this year.
I didn't know that. What's the other? Is it ham and egg? Are the islands off Ayrshire on the other coast? Ham, egg, and mull or something.
There's rum, egg, and muck.
Muck, that's right.
Yeah, rum, egg, and muck.
Yeah, geez, who thought them up? Yeah, but that's beautiful. If any of you other guys have not been to Scotland, you put it on your list. It's a lovely, lovely country. Best breakfast food in the entire universe.
Oh, well, if you're ever over here, there's always spare beds.
Well, you never know that I might just show up one day. I'll probably give you a call first, though. Are you anywhere? Where is Stornoway? That's in the Hebrides, right? But it's close to
Orkney, Shetland, Stornoway.
Where they make the best black pudding in Stornoway.
Yeah, you're welcome to that. Disgusting.
Oh dear, yeah, that's the best. I never liked the English stuff very much, but the Stornoway stuff, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting hungry all of a sudden. All right. What else?
Sounds to me as though Graham's got an engineering background.
Jack of all trades and a master of none.
I don't know. You sound as though you're a master of a good many.
I used to be an engineering and electrical inspector. I suppose that's probably part of my life.
I've never had a single formal engineering or electrical engineering course or training of any kind at all, and I've learned everything that I'm learning now from books and from talking to people and from YouTube too, giving credit where credit's due. But I'll tell you this much, that it is one of the most fascinating sets of human knowledge that you'll ever. It's like medicine in some respects, that the further you dig, the more you know, and the better you get at it, the less you know. I mean, you really, it is bottomless, and you can never be satisfied. And there's always that you can always be more precise, more accurate, and have better technique, which is exactly the way any satisfying thing should be. And I absolutely love it. It's the most relaxing and engaging thing that I do in my what little spare time I have. I'd show you, but it's embarrassing. Everything that's not visible on camera is piled up with electrical stuff and machines and boxes and circuits, and I can't get enough of it. It's thoroughly enjoyable. So all of these projects are a way to marry both of these interests, and that's a good thing.
I don't know how on earth we ever managed before the internet.
Well, yeah, we had our lives were very different though, weren't they? The pace was different and the priorities were different, and we still learn stuff, but we learned it at a slower pace, and we had to be selective about it. But we didn't know there was an option. We didn't know there was another way.
You spent your time in WH Smith's looking at adverts in magazines which you didn't buy, and then sending for catalogs.
Yeah, I did that too. Does WH Smith still exist outside of the airport? I don't know. Bookshops have disappeared from over here.
Yeah, there's still a few around. We've got one in our local small town.
We've got a Barnes and Noble here, but it's rubbish. It's just rubbish. They don't have any. Well, ours has become kind of like a. I've got to be very careful here about. They don't have any science books. They don't have any engineering books.
But we don't use shops anymore, do we? I don't. I never go into a shop hardly.
No.
Apart from groceries.
No, the exception to that rule is hardware shops, tool shops, which I absolutely adore, and thrift shops, which are the reason for my existence. Thrift shops are the best thing that ever happened to my creativity when it comes to this engineering stuff. I have never bought a stepper motor or I bought some driver stuff, but most of the things that I use in my projects are recycled from stuff I find. And I've learned electronics from taking things apart and then putting the bits back together in other projects. That's how I've learned what the parts do. And that is a great way to learn. Did I tell you guys, have you been at any other thing where I've talked about the prizes that were donated for the competition?
Yeah,
No.
I was on that meeting on Thursday.
I mentioned it on Thursday, yeah, that one of my viewers in the United States who's a he's actually a former executive with a very big stepper motor company in the US, who contacted me because he's a member of Patreon, and I was completely floored to that, and he contacted me to say that he had worked with this company and was interested to know if there were any motors that I hadn't had an opportunity to try. And there are lots of those. So we struck up a conversation, and he sent me a lovely power supply, a nice, good, heavy duty 12 volt, 8 amp power supply, which will drive every project that I could imagine ever building. But he also included in the box of stuff that he sent to me some unbelievably perfect condition accessories for Nikon slide duplication in the original box with the original paperwork. And as a in response to my asking anybody, well, he had actually been looking for a home for this equipment, and I suggested that maybe one way to find a good home for it would be through the competition, because I am trying to get sponsorship to get meaningful prizes for the winners. And so Graham, I need to talk to you about this, because I want to make sure that we come up with something for your prize that is meaningful. But he sent me this stuff, and I'm trying to decide. This is so specialist. Most people don't use slide duplicators, and they would have no use for this. They wouldn't necessarily understand what it was for, but they might understand what this was for.
Larger ones.
I haven't even seen a 50mm EL Nikkor in a case before, because all of mine came without a case. This thing does not look like it's ever been used. It's one of the old ones, but it is in pristine shape.
Yeah. Looks
So,
good.
you have one of these, Graham?
You don't.
Yeah, I've got one. I managed to pick up one from our local second-hand photographic shop, which is north of Inverness.
Wow.
And it looks as though it's never been used.
Is it the N or the pre-N?
No, the N.
The N.
Yeah, and I tell you what, for the lens hood, for those, what I did is there's Russian-made little caps. I think they were made for movie cameras.
Oh yes.
And they fit the reverse thread of that
Do they?
lens.
That's
And
20.
I bought it. Sorry?
Is it? Yeah, that's 39mm, I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly the right diameter and the same thread. It comes in a genuine Bakelite case.
Oh, lovely. Was this from RAF camera?
No, this was on eBay.
Oh, on eBay.
I've seen them for sale in America as well, and that's the original Russian
Good
paperwork.
grief. So it's from Russia.
Yeah, I bought that from a fellow on eBay. He was in Ukraine.
Well, that's where RAF camera is as well, and
Yeah.
they have stuff like this. What do you remember the name by any chance of the seller, or was this a one-off thing?
No, he does have them occasionally, but I'm just looking for the details of it.
Well, if you
But
find it, just
fits.
drop it in the notes or in the chat,
Yeah.
and I'll
Yeah,
put it in the.
but it comes with about, I think it's 4 or 5 of these little collars, different diameters, and they work beautifully.
Okay.
I've seen them for sale on eBay in America.
Okay.
Yeah, M39.
And what are they called? Is it in English as well as Cyrillic, or do they have a
No,
name?
I can't remember. I'm just looking it up. I'll let you
Oh,
know.
okay. No urgency.
But they fit absolutely beautifully.
Brilliant. Yeah, I
And they're
just make
ancient.
tubes out of that thin foam, and they last a while, and then they break apart.
You could scan the Russian manual to translator page
Yeah.
by page.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Something I don't think of that I need to. Again, this happened. I have a meeting with Rick Littlefield every Wednesday that we meet for about 3 or 4 hours on a Wednesday night, from about 8 to midnight, and we cover everything that we're working on, our projects, and it's just been an incredibly fruitful and enjoyable opportunity for me to learn a lot of mathematics and computer science that I didn't know before, and as well as talking to the guy that dreamt up a lot of the stuff that we do as routine. And we were I've forgotten the point I was going to make. Went right out of my head, but it was something pertinent to what was just said, and it'll come back to me, and I'll tell you in a minute, because it was useful. Something to do with photography anyway. The other thing that Robert, by the way, sent over was one of the old bellows attachments that I don't think has ever been used.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is just an absolutely beautiful work of art, this thing, and it's not even the PB6 kind of modern-ish build. It's the older one that I seldom get to see, but it is in absolutely pristine condition, like it's never been racked. And it's smooth as butter. So pretty. Look at that thing there. Isn't it gorgeous? I am going to hate to box this up and send it anywhere. But that was very, very kind of him to do that. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that macro photographers just love to find. So I'm gonna pick your brains in the last 7 or 8 minutes. I want to grow the competition, because I think the competition is important. I think that people are starting to engage with it where they might not have done before, and I think it has some credibility, because we haven't done anything to jeopardize that, and I want it to continue and grow and be something that is fun and that people look forward to and think about fairly regularly. Part of that is going to be having some type of a prize thing going. I mean, you really need to have that. People, I don't think, enter these things to win a prize, but it adds a little bit of excitement to it if we do. And I'm trying to come up with a sustainable, meaningful prize that also doesn't result in a huge shipping expense. I didn't think before offering I didn't think on many levels about giving a framed print as a prize to a photo competition, because of course Jimbo won it and he's in Devon somewhere. and a big frame print that weighs several pounds, shipping that overseas. It was like shipping a car back to Europe. A little more expensive than that, but you get the idea. So I'm trying to think what would be meaningful. Going forward, not for now. Graham's already taken care of now, but I'm drawing a blank on what I could do that would be meaningful and worthwhile. Any ideas?
How about a copy of your ultra macro photography book that you've yet to write?
Oh, hang on a second. That is an idea. It's a terrible prize. I am actually publishing a calendar this year. I decided to do it on the spur of the moment. I have a file full of photographs that I've taken over the years that I have put captions on. It's a silly thing that I do for my own amusement entirely. I've never shown most of them to anybody, but somebody saw them and made a comment, and it got me to thinking that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a calendar. I've already talked to the printer about it, and it's going to have a full color print of my photograph that I took with my caption printed on the calendar. So for the month, that will be the picture. But down on the bit where the dates are, there's going to be another picture, and that's going to be a contributor's caption photograph. And I am asking anybody in my audience who also, does this or wants to try it, to send me a caption photograph, and I will select 12 to go on the calendar along with my pictures. Kind of double the humor, and then I'm going to get this printed up in time to put them out for next holiday season. So and see what happens, see if they go anywhere. But again, it's kind of like giving my photographs to people who take good photographs is kind of a silly idea, but maybe some people would go for that. Any other ideas? I thought about what the most valuable premium that I have to offer is my time. And the one thing that kind of unifies everybody who comes to my channel is, in some form or other, they're trying to learn something else about macro photography. I guess some people come to be entertained in the hopes that I'll hurt myself doing a DIY project, but most of the time it's to learn something. So a block of private time to cover whatever, to talk about whatever they want to. I'm a little bit too embarrassed to do something like that.
That sounds like a brilliant idea. Because
Does
there's
it?
no postage charges.
There is no postage charge, and it is a block of time that would be scheduled, and it would be you'd let me know ahead of time if you wanted to do a walkthrough of something. I would have everything set up and would do it over Zoom. And I guess the winner could actually invite a couple of friends if they wanted to host a private tutorial. They could do that themselves.
Many people that are likely to win a prize are the people that are following you anyway. So your time is valuable to them, because I don't suppose there's one of us here that knows everything everyone else does.
Sure.
So when you chat to somebody, whoever it is, bouncing ideas back and forth is the way we learn and way we trigger our own minds.
Oh yeah. It's absolute. It is the most important part of my learning, is talking to you guys and talking to people who've been doing this longer than I have. By the way, as apropos of nothing, on Thursday when I did the Euro live stream, there is an engineer that I follow, an electrical engineer, who I have learned most of what I've learned about circuit design from him. I've never spoken to him. He showed up at my live stream and spent the entire hour there, as did Stuart Wood, the chap who photographs jumping spiders, who I've never met.
Can I make a comment on that live stream, Alan?
Yeah.
You already know the answer, but actually, there were so many people commenting that you got way behind, and there was a lady that asked a question about, I think a question about her flash shots were moving and
Yes.
her strategy. And you said to me, actually, you said, can you answer it? And I did, but you were so far down the list that we never got to it. And so I think that, your idea of filtering something out and just doing questions, because, people making odd comments to each other just fills up the space. And it seems a bit of a shame that people haven't got the answers that they want.
They do, and they will, in that all those answers are going to be in the comments for forever, so that anybody watching the video will get the answers to those questions. But more important, I discovered YouTube offers that there is a button on the page that I have, that I'm running the live stream from, where I can change the format to a Q&A session, which is actually a formal thing that they have, which changes the messaging to questions that I select and move up to the top of the stack. And it basically obviates the side talk and focuses it on questions and answers. And I haven't, I'm going to test it on Tuesday at the live stream. We're going to do the first half hour will be Q&A, so that it removes any extraneous back and forth. I recognize that some people really do like for me to say hi to them publicly and to engage with them in a chatty way. I would like that too, I think, if I was on the audience side. So I try to do that. But that was fine 2 months ago when I started this, when there were a handful of questions. But Thursday proved to me this is going to take on a completely different life of its own if this catches on, and because there were people there that have never watched my channel, this was their first exposure to me, and I can't afford to have them think that I'm not organized when it comes to these type of things. So I'm going to try out this Q&A offering that YouTube offers, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe have 3/4 of an hour based on that, and then for 15 minutes at the end, open it up to the floor and just answer what I can get to. So yes, and the other part of that is going to be in advance of each live stream. I will announce the topic that is going to be the focus of the live stream. So you can come and try to get a question in on another topic, but I'll probably deprioritize that to address the things that are consistent with the topic of the video that I just put out. So I'm on it, I think, I hope.
Alan, I had another idea for maybe a prize. I don't know if people still use DVDs, but if you could compile a few on some of the more important workshops that you have done, and maybe it's 1 or 2 CDs or something could be used as a prize.
I mean, I could do that digitally much more practically as create a private video, and I've done that. I have done that before, actually, for clients who wanted a tutorial that they could watch more than once, but they wanted it to be on a very specific topic, like setting up a rail with this camera, these lights, and so on. And I would do the thing and make a video that I would send to them, and it would be their video. They could watch it as often as they wanted, and I wouldn't publish it. But that is a terrible business decision, because it takes forever to make them, and it's wasted effort. But an hour in a private session with somebody who was already interested enough in macro photography to have entered a competition in the first place would be a good experience for me, a good experience, I hope, for them. Yeah, I think that might be the answer.
Yeah, I was just, I guess, trying to reinvent the wheel, but
No, I think it's a great. I think it's a great idea. I really do, and I'm going to have content when this calendar comes out. That's going to be a no-brainer. If I decide to sell it, that would be a decent prize. I mean, I don't know. It's a work in progress. As long as people are donating stuff,
right.
that's a natural. I mean, they have specifically donated it for me to offer as prizes, and that's what I'm going to do.
I know that I had purchased National Geographic's Introductory to Photography, but this was there were like about 25 CDs, and the content that was placed on the CDs, after a while I would just find myself falling asleep listening to the instructor, and but
people do that with my stuff all the time. Are you familiar with Dean Collins?
Oh yes. Yep.
This was also included in the package that I was sent.
Yes. I mean,
it's another
into about I think 10 sessions over an hour and 30 minutes or something like that. I don't know if my purchase was something that I should have given more thought to, because something that puts you to sleep, you're not going to learn from, unless my subconscious is wide awake and filtering that content, But
I don't know. I'd pay good money to get a good night's sleep every once in a while. Guys, it is past 10. We've run over, and
Okay.
I have thoroughly enjoyed our chat today. Graham, thanks for sharing your information about this build. I think it's exciting, and I'm definitely going to be following in your tracks on this one.
I'll be back. Can I just recommend a book for those? Have you seen that one before?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's a great book. If ever anyone wants to know about lighting, it's not macro lighting, it's just general lighting, but everything applies, whether it's macro or big. It's all relative size and angles.
I will list that in the program description, so anybody who couldn't make it today will see that too. The last thing. Any parting words or thoughts?
Yeah, the extension tubes that I was talking about for the Nikkor, they're Zorki, Zorki, Leika.
Zorki Leika?
Yeah, Zorki Leika Jupitar Industria.
What a fantastic name.
Yeah, they're M39s, and they fit beautifully on the reversed Nikon. This one appears to have been made in somewhere in 1960.
Wow, that seems like ancient history, but I was 2 back then, so it can't be that ancient.
Well, don't know. Just looking at us, I think it's very ancient.
Yeah, don't remind me. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. Congratulations again, Graham, on just a
Thank you so much.
absolutely stunning photograph. Definitely want to see more of that. If you haven't seen the prize winners video for this month's last month's photography competition, Graham was the star of the show, and his picture is prominently displayed
With constant light and high speed.
You know, we didn't even get to that, and that was on my list of stuff. Next time you're here, next time for the Euro, which will be a month from now, let's carve out a block of time to talk about flash constant, because I have issues with constant that are separate from motion and everything else, all to do with color and intensity and flicker, that type of thing. So I'd love to have that discussion. So I'll put it on my memo so that we're good to go. If you have any questions in follow-up, let me know. I'll try to get these notes out, and I'll get this recording up on Patreon right away. Thank you so much for your support of what I'm doing through Patreon. I am very, very grateful to you for letting me keep this thing going. And
Thanks for you two for doing it.
Yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I
It's
couldn't do
fantastic,
anything else if I tried. This is what I've been meant to do, I think. So, all right,
It's
guys.
brilliant being able to bounce ideas around, see what other people are doing.
Oh yeah, love it, love it. All right, guys, have a great
Okay,
week.
then.
Take care. Be safe.
No, thanks. Bye.
So long,
Bye.
everyone.
Be well.
Graham, before you go, could you possibly send me a mailing address
How
by
can
email?
I do that, Alan? What-
The easiest way is to just email it to me at contact@allenwallsphotography.com, and I will be looking for it.
All right, I'll do it now.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you.